Hello and welcome to the Layer Factory. In this video, I intend to show you how to assemble this 3D printed marble run. For the parts, print 2 of the 3mm spaces and 1 of everything else. Aside from the printed parts, you will also need the following: 5 MR105 bearings, 3 M5 by 20mm screws, 1 M5 by 15mm screw, 1 M5 by 10mm screw, 2 M3 by 20mm screws, 4 M3 by 10mm screws, 1 M3 by 25mm screw with 8 M3 nuts attached to it for counterweight, 1 KCD-101 power switch, 1 12-volt geared motor, 1 9-volt battery connector, a small length of DC wire, and your favorite type of bonding agent. For tools, keep handy a pair of pliers, a screwdriver, I would recommend a powered one, and a clamp. To keep the video short, most of the tutorial is sped up, so feel free to pause as needed when following along. Start by gluing the runs to the base. I would recommend following the same order as in this video for position references. While the base dries, start by tapping the appropriate M3 and M5 holes in the 2 gears, then add a bearing to the bolt and fasten with the M5 by 20 screw. Repeat the same with the lower arm. Glue the upper arm and the bowl holder together. I glued the arms off camera. Notice the hole is off center, so pay attention to positioning. Tap the holes in the upper arm, use the M5 by 15mm screw, add a bearing, then a spacer and fasten in place. Now tap the ball sequencer, use the M5 by 10 screw, add a bearing and a spacer and fasten in place. Next, fasten the M3 counterweight to the end of the sequencer. Now grab the base complete with its runs. Start by pushing the sequencer in place. You may need to use the clamp from here on if things get too tight. Push it in until the bearing is flush with the wall. Make sure the lever is free and falls back in position. Add more M3 nuts to the end if necessary. Next, take the lower arm assembly and push in place. At this stage, drop a marble and check if it will roll onto the arm as it's supposed to. Then adjust the distance of the sequencer and arm till satisfied. When happy, continue with the lower gear assembly. Push this in until the outer wall of the gear is aligned with the outer wall of the lower arm. I cut up a safety pin for this next step. Insert a pin through the pinhole in the gear all the way to the hole in the wall at the back. This is to lock its rotation, which will help with the timing of the 2 arms. At this stage, I realize it's easier to assemble the next gear when it's undone. Insert the bearing in position and loosely screw the top gear to it from the back. Insert the pin into the pinhole, and now you can slide the gear in and out of mesh while aligning its position. Then tighten the gear in place. Next, insert the top arm in position. Push it until it would clear the top gear as it tucks in behind the gear when moving. Attach the two links using the 4 M3x10 screws and add the motor to the back. Clamp it in place with the two remainder M3x20 screws. Follow this by removing the locking pins. Rest is now simple wiring. Of course, the best way for this is to solder the wires, but I have just twisted them in place for this video. Thread the wires through the hole for the switch before connecting the switch, then push the switch back in place. Now glue the cover aligned with the edges. Let it dry and it's all done. Add a 9-volt battery to the connector and you're ready for fun.